When the doctors told me that I had to make a decision for my husband's amputations to survive or just let him go, that was very difficult for me. I had to think about it and pray about it and talk with my family. It was a hard decision and life-changing.
My wife has been an angel. She's stuck by me. She's done everything for me. My mom, my sisters, my brothers, my kids. Without them, I wouldn't have made it. I feel like I'm half a man. My mind says I can do it. My body says I can't. They haven't met yet. I see my wife having to do duties that I've done. You know, I've remodeled my house. I've never hired someone to do things. Now I have to ask people to do it. I have to have my wife do it. My wife, she not only has to do what she was doing, she has to do what I was doing also, and in the meantime, take care of me.
And sometimes I feel like I'm just alone in that.
Some of my greatest fears is, first, obviously financially. I can't make a living. My wife has to stay home and take care of me. I'm probably not going to be able to send my kids to college. I worry about when the kids leave, how we're going to deal with not having them around.
What I worry the most about for my husband and I is surviving and the challenges we have ahead of us. It's been different for us and hard.
Every day, somewhere in America, more than 300 innocent men, women, and children become victims of medical malpractice at the hands of incompetent and negligent doctors. Last year, over 98,000 victims were killed by doctors. More than 4 million victims are permanently injured each year.
Today, the Insider Exclusive goes behind the headlines in When Doctors Go Wrong, Robert Downey's story, to examine how Mosley Collins, the Downeys family attorney, is seeking justice for Robert and his family in a very challenging medical malpractice case. Robert Downey, 48, a father of 7, whose arms and legs were amputated after doctors repeatedly failed to properly diagnose and treat an infection, is suing the hospital he claims is responsible. His lawsuit alleges that the staff at Sutter Memorial Hospital in Sacramento, California, failed to spot that he had MSSA, a cousin of MRSA, even though they had treated his son for a similar infection just weeks earlier. He claims that their oversights led to the amputations of his hands, his right leg at the knee, and his left leg below the knee, leaving him to rely on his wife Sherry to carry out the simplest of tasks. These amputations resulted from MSSA, methicillin-sensitive Staphylococcus aureus, a cousin of the often deadly MRSA infection, but one that is typically treatable with antibiotics if caught early. Robert's attorney, Moseley Collins, wants the hospital to take responsibility for its alleged mistakes and to warn hospitals not to let this happen in their emergency rooms. We want to make sure that hospitals know that they have to treat these infections more seriously. Moseley Collins has earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as one of the best trial lawyers in Sacramento, in California, and across the nation. He has seen many innocent and hardworking people injured and killed by negligent and incompetent doctors, hospitals, and nurses. Moseley's passion is problem solving. He approaches each medical negligence case as a scientist trying to solve a puzzle. He has seen many patients suffer needless injury, and because of that, he is driven to help people who have been harmed by incompetent and negligent doctors. Moseley's goal? To make medicine safer and more accountable, and of course, to get justice for his clients. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Sacramento, California.
It is my great pleasure to introduce Moseley Collins to the show. Welcome to the show, Moseley.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell our audience a little bit about your law firm. What type of law do you practice?
I practice injury law, whether it's an auto accident or a medical malpractice lawsuit. So I represent seriously injured people and sadly, on some occasions, wrongful death cases.
In other words, you represent the little guy, never big business. Or
Never big business, the little guy. I represent the man who got run over by the UPS truck.
Mm-hmm.
And UPS is obviously as an example, is a huge corporation. And so we represent them against that corporation.
Yeah, you also are a pastor, are you not?
Well, I teach the Bible on the radio.
Okay.
And I'm kind of different that way. I went to Bible college and graduated from Bible college before I went to law school. And so I actually went to law school to be in the ministry. And so ministry is a really important part of the law firm.
Mm-hmm.
And so we even have people call every day the law firm for prayer. And the law firm's distributed over 2,000 Bibles for free in our area.
Well, all I have to do is call in, right?
Yeah.
And you'll send them out a Bible.
We will.
That's
for
pretty
free.
good. Mm-hmm.
And we'll pray with them too. People call for prayer, which is, I sometimes joke and say, God stole my law firm, and it's fine with me.
Today we are here talking about a case that is still ongoing.
Yes, it is.
Your client's name is Robert Downey.
Correct.
Tell our audience who Robert is.
Robert Downey was a healthy man who developed an infection, and he went 3 times to a local hospital called Sutter Memorial Hospital here in Sacramento. He went 3 times. They never eradicated the infection. And the last time he went home, went to bed with his arms around his wife,
Mm-hmm.
and woke up weeks later and had his hands and his feet amputated because that infection that Sutter Memorial should have caught and should have treated, they didn't, ended up almost killing him.
Yeah, this infection is, I think it's called MSSA, right?
Yeah, MSSA is a close cousin to MRSA.
Which is called MRSA.
Which some people call MRSA.
Infections, a lot of people get in hospitals, don't they?
You can, but you can also get it outside of hospitals.
This is a Staphylococcus bacterial infection?
It's what it means that what MRSA and MSSA means is very difficult to treat. That it takes a particular antibiotic to kill it. And doctors are trained to do that, but if they are not careful, they'll miss it, and the infection runs wild, and it will kill you.
Yeah.
In his case, it didn't kill him, but to save his life, they gave him drugs that pools all the blood into his central organs, but it allows your hands and feet to die.
Yeah.
And so that's why when he woke up, he had no hands and feet.
Right. Well, this is a case of a hospital not performing the normal, reasonable standard of care,
Right.
which you would expect from a hospital and the doctors.
Well,
right?
here's what's kind of shocking that people really don't know, is he was treated by a physician's assistant, not by a doctor. And so, I hate to say this, but it's really a case about greed, because a hospital wants to charge you all the money, but they don't want to pay a doctor to treat you. So they hire physician assistants. So the question is, doesn't it make a difference to go to medical school?
Yeah.
Doesn't that make you a better person to treat people who come into your emergency room? So here he goes in, he thinks he's being treated by doctors. He's not. He's being treated by people that never went to medical school.
Yeah.
And as a result, catastrophic injuries to him.
What are some of the challenges that you're going to be facing in bringing this lawsuit?
Well, one of the challenges is people like to think that doctors and hospitals don't make mistakes. They like to think that. So they give them a pass on things they shouldn't give them a pass on. And so it's always a little difficult to convince a jury that the hospital where they live is capable of so terribly injuring someone. So that's one of the challenges, is to show them, yeah, these people do things that cause terrible injuries.
What are some of the other hurdles that you'll have to encounter?
Well, the hurdles, you know, the doctors went to the legislature and they got a lot of laws passed that helped the doctors. So one is a cap on suffering, pain and suffering. So here's a man who has no hands and no feet for the rest of his life, and the cap on pain and suffering in this state is $250,000, which is amazingly small for someone who's going to live the rest of their life. So one of the challenges is, how do we get a reasonable result for this man with a cap like that on pain and suffering? And the way you do that is you have to price out everything he's going to need. He's going to need 3 pairs of prosthetics for his right leg, 3 pairs for his left leg. He's going to need hands, artificial hands. He's going to need someone to take care of him. So you have to add up all those numbers, and that's how you get to a bigger number.
And naturally, the other side has their own set of figures, don't they?
Yes, naturally.
And they're often very much different, aren't they?
There is. But see, we don't want the citizens of our state to pay for this.
Yeah.
We want the people to take responsibility who did this and have them pay for it. So one of the goals of a lawsuit like mine is to not burden the citizens of our state or the state with the cost of taking care of Robert, but actually have the hospital take responsibility and pay for what he needs.
We have Robert and his wife Sherry with us today. Let's bring them on right now.
Sure, they're great people.
It is my great pleasure to introduce Robert and Sherry Downey. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Tell our audience a little bit about, you know, the day you went to the hospital and they sent you home without properly diagnosing you.
Back in June of 2011, my stepson contracted MRSA on his left leg, and we took him to Sutter Memorial Hospital. We saw a physician's assistant. They cultured him, and they found out that it was MRSA, and they put him on an IV right away, and it went away. A couple weeks later, I found the same sore on my left arm that he had, so I went back to Sutter Memorial Hospital, was seen by the same physician's assistant.
The same person?
The same person. He remembered me because he asked me how my son was doing.
Yeah.
I was treated differently. He started doing the same thing, but he didn't take a culture, and he didn't put me on an IV. He gave me oral medication. About 2 weeks later, I was...
Let me ask you, did you question, since you had been through this with your stepson, did you question what he was doing?
Why he would treat me different?
Yeah.
No, because I didn't know.
Okay.
At the time, I was diabetic too, which is an accelerator, so I should have been treated a little different. And they knew about it. They took my blood sugar. A couple weeks later, I developed a pain in my right shoulder and did a little research. I mean, it was excruciating pain. I couldn't move. Did a little research and found out that it was related to what I thought was related to the MRSA. So my wife took me back to Sutter Memorial, and this time we had, we
saw a different doctor that time.
Yeah, this is the third time. The second time they just checked it.
Yeah.
The third time I saw a different physician's assistant.
And this is all over a span of...
About a month altogether.
Yeah. So you went to the doctor 3 times in 30 days?
Yeah.
And the third time, what happened?
This was on July 18th, which was my birthday. I was diagnosed with bursitis, and I told the new physician's assistant, the one that I hadn't seen before, no, I think this is related to the MRSA.
Yeah.
You know, this is what the research that I did. And he said, no, don't worry about it.
Bursitis?
That's what they said.
How the hell did they get bursitis?
Yeah, I don't know. I told him, you know, it's not
anything.
like I play tennis or
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm scared this is related to the MRSA. Do some research. And he said, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you some pain pills. You'll be fine.
Said it'd be gone in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. This was a physician assistant?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went home. I took the pain medication. Wasn't helping. That was on the 19th. On the 20th, I woke up in the morning, and I couldn't hardly walk. I remember...
I had to help you.
Yeah, I remember getting my wife saying, something's wrong, honey. Can you help me go to the bathroom? So she helped me to the bathroom, and then I don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
I woke up, 30 days later?
He was sweating profusely.
When you say you couldn't go to the bathroom, is that because you couldn't walk?
I couldn't walk.
Couldn't walk.
Well,
you were
then-
feeling like dizzy?
Dizzy, disoriented.
Yeah. And then you don't remember much after that?
Correct.
I took his blood pressure and couldn't even get a reading, so I just called 911, and then they came in and took over for me.
And then,
But he was already in renal failure at that time.
So then you went to the hospital, then what happens?
they isolated him because they didn't know what was wrong, and they just kept running test after test, and he didn't stay up much longer after that, less than half the day, and then he was already into a coma, but it took a few days to figure out exactly what was going on.
Now, during the time he was in a coma, and while they were figuring this out, the doctors came to you, and basically you were faced with some really important decisions you had to make on behalf of your husband. What were they?
It was almost a month into it, and he had been in a coma, and he got gangrene, and I had to decide to either let him go or, get the amputations.
Right. So in other words, they had to amputate his limbs
correct.
in order to save his life.
Yeah.
That was a tough decision for you.
It was a very tough decision. I asked if I could think about it, and I thought about it through the evening and talked with family, and that's what I decided. They told me there was still a 50-50 chance, but...
Yeah. The reason we're here today is because had the doctors diagnosed you properly, this whole thing could have been avoided.
Correct.
That's what we think.
If the doctors are sitting here right now, the hospital staff, the people responsible, what would you say to them?
First of all, I'd tell them to do some research. I was in law enforcement for 22 years. If I made a mistake like that, if I pulled somebody over and they got out of the car and I shut off their limbs, what would happen to me? I would go to jail. I would lose my house. My department would be sued. What happens to doctors? Nothing. They go to the next patient. They make the mistakes over and over again. A simple blood test, sir, would have saved my limbs. A simple blood test. Thank you very much.
Now, this is probably, I'm guessing, the first lawsuit that you guys have ever been involved with, right?
Yes.
Most people don't want to sue. I mean, you'd give anything in the world to be back to
It took us a while
normal.
to make that decision.
Yeah. What have been the challenges that you have faced over the last, what is it, a couple of years now?
Yes.
Because of your condition? What challenges,
I think our whole lives have changed.
First of all, we were starting a respite care business, and we had to quit that.
Yeah.
There's
She
the
lost
challenges of when Rob first came.
You have to take care of him 24/7.
24/7.
I had to do everything.
Yeah, she takes care of me. Without her, I'd be in trouble. This is my angel. She's made some hard decisions, which were the correct ones. I'm happy now, and I didn't want to die. I want to raise my 7 children.
What's your opinion of Mosley, the way he's handling your case?
A godsend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been good to us.
Very supportive.
Yeah.
Very good to us. Encouraging. He keeps us in the know.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend him.
Well, your case is still pending. I heard you have a trial date maybe sometime next year or something.
Yeah, next summer.
We wish you a lot of luck. We're rooting for you.
Thank you.
And my hat's off to both of you. And thank you very much for being on our program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mosley, tell us a little bit about what is the purpose of lawsuits?
Lawsuits, people worry about lawsuits, but actually they serve a wonderful purpose, and here's what it is. If a FedEx truck runs over your child and terribly injures him, what are you going to do if you don't have a lawsuit? Are you going to take a gun and go find that driver and get even with him? If someone hurts you, whether it's an accident or on purpose, you feel like I've got to do something. And the lawsuit allows you to do something legally. And so it's a huge safety valve, really, for our society. So that you don't have to take a gun, you don't have to go hunt these people down, you don't have to get even yourself.
Yes.
You can have a lawsuit, and that way there's a feeling that you're getting justice.
Yeah.
And that's what people want when they're badly hurt.
You brought up something earlier in the show when you talked about you don't want the taxpayer to bear the financial responsibility. Explain to our audience how that happens if you were not able to sue and recover from the people who actually perform the negligence or incompetence.
Right. All our states and our nation are so burdened with debt. And the last thing they need is an expensive, like in Robert Downey's case, it's going to cost millions of dollars to take care of him.
Yeah.
The state shouldn't have to pay for that. The people who should pay for that are the people who caused it.
And the state has to pay for it because if the rightful responsible party doesn't pay,
right,
then he has to get Medicare
yes,
and Medi-Cal, and that comes out
yes,
of taxpayers'
if
money.
If no one steps forward,
yeah,
if I don't force a hospital to step forward, or a trucking company, or whoever it is, to step forward and I force them to take responsibility and to pay for the harm they've done, if I don't do that, or some lawyer doesn't do that, these people end up on welfare, on food stamps, on Medi-Cal, on Medicare, on
yeah,
Medicaid, and now the state is having to pay for harms that were actually done by a business or a corporation or a hospital who should actually be paying for it. And so one of the great things about a lawsuit is you can take the burden off the state and put it on the people who actually caused the damage.
Right, and that way it'll hold them more accountable. More importantly,
yes,
any kind of procedures that they may have in place which caused this in the first place, they have an incentive to correct it because they don't want to pay out a lot of money after that again.
Do you know why cars have 3-point seat belts? Do you know why cars have collapsible steering wheels? Do you know why children's pajamas don't burst into flames?
Lawsuits.
Because people sued those guys,
yeah,
and they said, well, I think we better make this better.
Yeah.
I mean, lawsuits make life better and
yeah,
safer. I know some people are irritated by them, and
yeah,
I appreciate that. But you know, lawyers like myself, we only take the real lawsuits. They
yeah,
only take the serious lawsuits. And it actually makes your life better,
right,
because the things that they're doing wrong, people stop doing when you punish them with a verdict.
Yeah. How do you know if you're the victim of medical malpractice? And the reason I'm asking this question, because oftentimes things happen in a hospital and the doctor will look to you and said, we did everything we could, when actually he's not telling you the whole truth. So how do you know that you're a victim of medical malpractice?
Okay, it is difficult. And medical malpractice is not like, oh, the car ran the red light.
Yeah.
What you have to do, I think, is this. It's what I call the smell test.
Yeah.
If you look at what happened to you, or someone in your family, say, that smells wrong, there's some, that shouldn't have happened, then you've got enough to go to a lawyer and say, would you check this out for me? This doesn't seem right to me. And sometimes you'll never know until the lawyer actually does the investigation, because as you point out, hospitals are great at covering things up.
Yeah.
I mean, the second doctor won't tell you the first doctor really hurt you.
Right.
And he should,
yeah,
but he won't.
What do you do if you suspect you're a victim of medical malpractice?
Well, in our society, all you can do is call a lawyer, because if you call the hospital, you know, like, you hurt me.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, you know, we're sorry, goodbye.
Yeah, we're not perfect and things happen,
yeah,
right?
So you have to hold them accountable, and the only way you can, and thank God in this country we have a civil justice system that can hold people accountable who hurt other people.
Yeah. How do you personally evaluate a case about whether you want to take that client or not?
Well, because I'm only one lawyer, I have to limit myself to the very serious cases.
Right.
I can't take all the cases that come to me. I try and focus on the case I can do the most for. If I can't help you, I don't want to represent you. So we limit ourselves to the catastrophic injuries and the wrongful deaths, as Robert's case obviously is a catastrophic injury.
Right, right.
So we have to, and the cases that we can't handle, we try and refer to other lawyers. So we try and help everybody.
Right.
But I can only accept the most serious cases.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being on our show today. You've really added a lot of insight into what's really going on in the world, and thanks for your wonderful efforts in getting the results that you do for your clients.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.